Hey there, thanks so much for joining me again today. It's Monday and this is live, and today I'm going to be talking about some strange behavior I've witnessed just recently and gotten to the bottom of about Dorico, and it points to some interesting principles about expression maps. Also, how CC7, the sort of standard MIDI volume, is triggered, and I wanted to illuminate that because I did not actually know about this until recently. And then the third thing is that it kind of supported was the benefit of working in templates. And so I thought this would be a helpful guide for composers who are trying to use Dorico, as I am, to facilitate their creative workflow, right? Again, a common theme to all of my videos and all of my efforts with software is to try to achieve this sort of seamless creative flow. So let me first start out by demonstrating what the problem is, and you can relate if this is, it might have been something you witnessed and freaked you out. It might be something you don't even know is happening, in which case, just like me, you definitely want to know about it. So let me take myself off the screen here, and I'm going to go to, let's see, I've got this little demo. Oh, sorry. Need to take myself off the screen. That's not working. Why is that not working? Let me take myself off there more manually. Okay, so I've got this little demo here, just a little string, little rhythmic harmonic string thing, okay? Now check this out. If we were to look at my instruments here, this is my VE Pro, and we're going to look at the strings here. So let me actually bring this in on the left, and I'll bring this in on the right. And what you'll notice over here, let's go with the violins too, since they seem to be doing something interesting. Okay, this is my mixer inside Sign Player, but if you are using, Contact or anything, it'd be the same. It's a standard mixer. I hit play, and everything looks good. Okay, but let's take this for example. If I were to go ahead and, well, actually, let me provide a little bit more background on this, right? So traditionally, composers in the digital world, they use something called, that I think most composers refer to as MIDI flags, and these are little chunks of MIDI at the beginning of a track, especially in the old days when you had to work in DAWs. And in that little MIDI sort of flag, it would set a CC7 value, maybe a CC1 value, CC11 value, maybe a standard key switch if you're doing, per track articulations where, this track is your staccato, you want to have the MIDI flag contain a key switch for that. And by setting various CC values and a key switch, you could be confident that wherever you, whenever you did playback or you bounced out those tracks, things would sound right. And if there wasn't any kind of automation curve or there wasn't any MIDI CC actually at that juncture, that there'd be some sort of default that it would set to, right? Now Dorico handles this in expression maps, and let me take myself off and show how that's handled in expression maps. And it points to the importance of using expression maps. So this is my standard string expression map here. I've got loads of stuff in there. And all expression maps should, and probably already do, have this init entry. And this init entry can be used to basically set values. So in the sign player for my particular Berlin string setup, I use CC70. And generally a CC70 value of 0 translates to like a default setting. So if I'm on my channel for sustains, then it's like a basic sustain. If I'm on a channel for staccatos, it's my basic staccatos, even though I may have other serial staccatos, slurred staccatos, staccato bold, or things like that. Okay, then I set CC1, which is modulation or dynamics, to a standard 90. And I set volume, CC7, to 90. And I set control change 11, which is expression, to 90. 90 is sort of, for all intents and purposes, considered, let's say, unity. gain, right? So sort of 0 on a fader. 90 is generally considered, you know, it's a good, it is going to vary a little bit, but you know, we can't worry too much about that. So these are set at 90, and what you would expect is that when I start playing on the violin 2, that it's going to maintain 0 here, right? And it is right now. You'll notice that when I play, you'll notice that it is doing that. Hey, Rich, thanks so much for joining me. But what I was having happen was this. Let me find where my strings are. Let's put all my strings up there and see if that recreates this problem. Yes, it does. Okay, so I'm just reminding myself a little bit about what this problem was. So I want you to watch this fader over here when I hit play. We'll start that again. It goes to 0 and then magically bounces up. So this is confusing. This was the problem that I arrived at, where I had my init in my expression map set to 90, which I know should be 0, but it was like bouncing down to that and then going back up. So just as to make this more clear, let's say I go into my expression maps and I change the init value for CC70 to 30. You know, so obviously that's not what I want, but then it'll be a very, very obvious change here. You'll see it drop way down and then come back up. Okay, so we know why it is coming back. We know why it's going down, right? It's going down to 30 because that's what I have set in init in my expression map. And that looks good, and according to sort of common logic, that's enough. It's init in my expression map. However, the MIDI faders in Dorico trigger right after you hit play. So the init values get sent, and then whatever the MIDI fader is set to, and this is also true for panning, which is CC10, whatever it's set to then triggers. And that is a little bit disconcerting. It's a real problem because most of the time you don't even see these faders. Most of the time, these are the faders you see. These are your instruments, and you have to actually go up here and you have to say, show me MIDI faders. And I'll just clear out the other one so it's more clear. And now I see all these faders, and you'll see that I have now set all my faders to 90, but the default is that they should be set to 100. And 100 is this higher level over here, which is shockingly, actually, it could be 2 dB, 2 decibels louder, which means that my whole mix, when I stack up my entire orchestra, it explains one of the reasons why I may be peaking. And if I'm just going to my init value in the expression map and expecting that to solve, to even out all my levels, unfortunately, this key factor is completely obscured from, was obscured from me. If you know about it, then more power to you. But it is obscured from me. So I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to illuminate the solution and talk about this is how you could go about best practices to make sure you're not doing this. First thing is decide what value you want that CC7, maybe CC1, CC11 to be. Although keep in mind, CC1 and 11, they don't get overwritten by the faders, the MIDI faders. The MIDI faders only have controls for panning, which is CC10, and volume, which is CC7. So let's just talk about 7 and 10 for the time being. The first thing I would recommend doing is go into your template. You want to use a template so that you can save these fader values and make sure they're happening every time. And you want to be using expression maps so that you know that there's an init value. You want the init value for CC7 or CC10 to be identical to what they are in your faders. So here I've set my faders to 90, and I've also got 90 being the value in my expression map. And then I save it as a template, and I know that every time I open up my project, my faders in my virtual instruments are not going to move. If you're using Contact, I think by default it responds to CC7. You can turn that off. I'm not familiar with a way to turn that off in Sign, and maybe that's why Contact has that. But this is, I think, a more robust solution. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you do have questions, please post in the comments. I am going to be talking on Wednesday about a topic which may seem at first to be kind of academic but super useful, and that is understanding why and how some of our cables and USB hubs and things like that may not work so well in the studio, even though they might work well for like business work or things like that. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and at the end of the week, of course, another lesson related to mixing. So please join me. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Comments are always welcome. Try to keep them constructive and helpful and positive. I look forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday, and thanks so much.